Hey guys, this video is part 2 of our series on how to get into Oxford for French and German. If you have not yet seen part 1, go watch it now. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's pretty good. And please don't forget to hit the subscribe and the notifications button so you do not miss out on any future videos. Take care and all the best. What can you do with a languages degree, right? I mean, if you know, apart from being a French and German teacher, I mean, who needs languages anyway, right? It's because you have Google Translate, and surely, these days it's becoming less and less relevant.
I think because that attitude is becoming quite common, having a languages degree really sets you apart in that you can be the go-to person when a company needs to send, say a UK company needs to send someone to France or Germany, you're there. Or you can actually obviously go and work in Paris, Munich, that kind of thing. There are obviously jobs in translation or interpreting, which are more traditional ways of using your degree. You'll be using a lot of the same skills that you have acquired at Oxford, or as I said, just working in a traditional company, but just in a different language. So I would say there's a premium on having these skills because everyone is now so reliant on Google Translate or those kind of tools.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'm fortunate that I speak fluent Russian and Ukrainian, but not through learning them, but because I was born in Ukraine, and so we do have some students who come from Russia, Ukraine, who are Russian Ukrainian speakers, and it definitely for A&J, right? We're a very small company, but having the language ability, you can connect with people and you can explain fairly complicated admissions process and sort of ways of doing things to parents who maybe can't speak any English, right? And only their children can. Yeah. So from a personal experience, I feel languages, if you can learn a language, you definitely should, because it
opens up so many possibilities. And I would say the Oxford degree, I haven't said so far, but there's a heavy emphasis on literature. So that might be something we should discuss, that if you're not that keen on reading long French books or German books, then the Oxford degree might not be well suited to you. It's a pretty even split between language and literature, actually. So that's definitely worth bearing in mind.
So you're saying, so if I'm applying to study French and German or whatever language at Oxford, only half of that is actually learning the language. The other half is basically doing like literature and learning about the, what did writer X, feel when she was writing, X, Y, Z.
Well, so when you're learning the literature, you're obviously also learning the language, because unless you're slacking off and reading translations online or that kind of thing, you will be reading Thomas Mann in German, a 900-page novel in German. So you're probably I did that and I got a lot better at German by reading his novels. So the same skills are used, but they're equally, you write the literature essays in English. So it does become quite like an English degree in that respect, but just using French and German text or Russian or Spanish, whatever. So it's definitely important to have some kind of passion for literature, I think.
Tuppy, I don't get it. Why do you write the essays in English when, if you can read the whole damn book, 900 pages, surely you can write an essay in that language. Why don't you write it in that language as well?
Yeah, it's something I definitely thought about whilst I was there. I think the Oxford reasoning would be you can express more complex ideas in your native tongue, which is definitely true. I think it's a shame that they don't encourage some writing in your own language about the literature. In the foreign language, because I think as soon as they say you're going to be expressing more complex ideas in English, it kind of sets a barrier, like a ceiling for your French and German skills. They're saying, oh, you don't really need to get that good because you're never going to be writing about Thomas Mann in German. You do write language essays in your foreign language, so a more theoretical essay, they'll say something like vegetarianism is morally indefensible, something like that, and then you have to write 1,000 words in French on that subject. So that really tests your skills. But perhaps they'll bring in a change and we'll start writing some literature essays in French. I think Durham does that a bit. So I think that would be good. But equally, like I said, to be realistic, you do express yourself better in English if you're English. So I understand why they do it. And it means the level of literary study is quite high.
No, it makes sense. Tuppy, just rounding this up. So if we just go through the application again, so you applied by 15th of October in the year before you're hoping to start at Oxford. You applied with the UCAS form and the personal statement. In that personal statement, you've emphasized that focus on literature is very important, and you don't just talk about your desire to do language, but actually explore the readings and the works of literature in those languages and analyze them.
Yes, that's definitely important, showing that you've read some novels or plays or poetry in the original, and just being honest about the kind of ideas you've come up with, and perhaps not choosing the really obvious texts. Everyone picks Camus, L'Étranger, like everyone does that. So don't do that. Just be yourself, but try find something a bit different. So it's quite hard to talk about why you love the actual language side of things. You can say you've enjoyed going to France and speaking with people, but it can end up sounding a bit naive or immature, perhaps. Like, oh, I went on holiday and I loved chatting in French. It's not as easy to sound sophisticated, which is what they're kind of looking for. So definitely emphasize the literature in the personal statement.
No. Great. So you do the personal statement. There are 2 extra essays that you need to submit. They're graded. The requirement is that they're graded by your school teachers, and that they're your routine pieces of work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There is a separate deadline to them, normally around 10th of November, but do double check because these things can change. You need to download a PDF and print, and basically your teacher needs to sign off on it. So you do those. Then there is the MLAT, the Modern Languages Admissions Test that Tuppy talked about preparing for. And then once all of that is taken into account, there is the interview. Normally you have 2 interviews, right? For one in each language, or how does it work?
Yeah, so that would be standard. If you're doing a beginner's language, it can be a bit different. You can often have the sort of language side of things where they got me in a room and made me sort of repeat Russian words to them. And then I had a more literature interview. So I ended up actually having, I think, about 6 interviews or something like that, because I got pulled to all these different colleges, which was very stressful. But if you've done the languages before, probably just a French and Spanish interview is the standard procedure. Yeah.
So basically you didn't impress them, they didn't really like you, and then you just got in, just
yeah, exactly. They were throwing me about. But I think I wouldn't try to read too much into that if that happens to you. Often it's the case that you apply to Christchurch, they might think this guy's really good, but we don't have enough spaces. So let's send him to Balliol, and they can see if they think he's good enough.
Yeah, and often again, from experience with many of our students, sometimes when you have an applicant, and again, this is just speaking with tutors and admissions officers kind of off the record, but sometimes you need to train younger academic staff in interviews, right? So when you interview somebody and you say, okay, we definitely want this applicant, then you've sort of already decided, you then assign them an extra interview and send them to this younger colleague, so that they can interview and they can see the standard of what you should look like. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, if you have extra interviews.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Cool. Okay, so you have the interviews, then you find out in January, and then normally the offers are conditional, so you need to meet your grades, and then you go. Tuppy, that was very helpful. Before you run off and enjoy your weekend, can you give us 3 tips if you want to do French and German, or any language degree at Oxford or Cambridge? What would be your 3 tips to maximize your chances of getting in?
I think the first one would be making sure you've done the grammar work, the vocab work, that you actually have a good basis in French and German, or whichever language you've chosen, because if you don't, that will come back to bite you in the aptitude test, definitely.
Sorry.
Secondly, sorry.
Did you say in the as or in the attitude? Sorry.
The Zoom broke out in the aptitude test.
Yeah.
I'll have to enunciate more clearly. Secondly, I think, as we've mentioned, literature is a big component. So having some experience reading novels in the foreign language, because if you pick up a Thomas Mann novel before you apply and you find, oh, I really hate this, then you're probably not going to enjoy the Oxford degree. Although I would say Thomas Mann's quite hard, so maybe go for something like Kafka to start with. And thirdly, when it comes to the interview process, I think being sort of honest and humble, and if you don't understand something, the tutors will actually like it if you ask for help, if you ask for some clarification, because that's how the tutoring system will work when you arrive, that you're going to be in dialogue with them. So you need to be honest about your limits, really.
Great.
Tuppy, that was super insightful. Thank you so much for your time.
Guys, if you're thinking of applying for French or German at Oxford, you have any questions, for Tuppy and myself, put them in the comment section below. Also, you can message us on Twitter, Instagram, where we do reply quite quickly. So do use that. And yeah, stay tuned. Do subscribe for more videos like this on admission tips, and have a great time. Thank you, Tuppy.
Thanks very much, Sunny.
Cheers.
See you.